Hello everybody, welcome to Lex Macula Presents In the Spotlight. We've often heard that everyone has a story to tell. And this series is our attempt to find those very stories in the legal profession. We hope to look beyond firms, job titles, colleges, etc. and find what inspires and motivates our favorite lawyers. So come join us and enjoy this episode of In the Spotlight. Hey everybody, welcome to Lex Macula Presents In the Spotlight. Today we are here with Advocate Janvi Sharma. We are super excited today. And ma'am co-founded The Virtual Lawyer, an initiative by Professor Dr. Manjula Batra with the aim to promote virtual legal education. Not letting the pandemic get in the way of education and knowledge, their initiative has been a grand success.
And before we start, I have to say that when we first began curating the idea for this show, you were the first person that came to our mind. Ma'am, you have always been there for us as a constant pillar of support and have helped us in our growth in the past few months. And we are extremely grateful to you for the same.
No, of course, I had to. I mean, you guys were doing such a good job, and I saw you guys doing a good job, and I wanted to help you in any way possible.
So, ma'am, I remember that my first point of contact with you was in the month of May.
Yeah.
And ma'am, the pandemic was in full go, ma'am. Everything was chaotic. And I remember that call because on that call you said that the growth and the pace at which the virtual lawyer is growing, that is completely unprecedented. But with more and more requests for more and more webinars coming in, you decided that, okay, now since we have started this venture, let's continue. And ma'am, like I told about this to our team as well, that I just talked to Janvi ma'am, and this is her view. And this is so motivating. We should also try to do the same. So ma'am, like what was your thought process behind like increasing the virtual lawyer or growing the virtual lawyer? And did you have any specific discussion with Manjula Batra ma'am regarding this, how you want to take it forward?
Okay, so at the outset, I want to tell everyone that Professor Dr. Manjula Batra is my mother and I'm her daughter because, you know, I get these questions almost on a daily basis. People are asking me, and they're like, how do you know Professor Batra? How do you know her? And I'm like, she's my mother. And then they're like, really? We didn't know. And I was like, yeah, so it was... So I remember it was just when lockdown had started, and there is an advocate called Mr. Tarveen Singh Nanda. So he had messaged all of us. We had a WhatsApp group of young lawyers of Delhi High Court, and he messaged all of us and he said that, you know, I'm thinking of starting a lecture series. So you all let us know if you want to give a lecture. So being the daughter of an academician, I was like, yes, I want to give a lecture. I just jumped on it, right? So then he asked me, he's like, please request ma'am also to give a session. So I asked mom, and she said that, yeah, I'll give a session. So then I remember this was around 10:30, 11 at night, and there was this discussion on the group. Now this is before Zoom came, okay? This is before like Microsoft Teams and, you know, all of these softwares. So we were discussing on the group which platform to adopt. So everyone was of the view that since we can't narrow down on one platform, each speaker will give wherever they want, their choice, and they'll just, you know, circulate it and sort of tell people. So then I was sitting and I was thinking, and you all know how active I am on Instagram, right? So anyone who knows me knows that like my entire life is on Instagram. So I thought that, you know, why not make a public profile on Instagram and then, you know, do a session through Insta Live, and anyone can, you know, join it. There's no restriction. So what I decided early on was that I did not want people to be filtered, the audience to be filtered. I wanted every person who is willing to see a session to be able to see it, and then to be able to see it in an easy way. It should not be complicated, like, you know, registration, then this, then that. So I did not want to put that kind of burden, especially in the context that, you know, we had in March and April and, you know, May. So then I felt that, okay, so Insta Live is a good thing. So then I was making a profile. Now it has to be a public profile. So I was thinking it can't be in my name or mom's name. So then I think this was 2:30 in the night. So now it's 2:30, okay? And both of us are thinking, so we came up with this name, The Virtual Lawyer, because we were like, it's virtual, right? So we'll just
name the perfect.
So and then I quickly googled the name to see if there were any other platforms by that name, and at that time there was nothing. So then we made this platform, we made a poster and we circulated the poster. So she gave her session, I gave mine, and we had a turnout of over 200 people per session live. So then we were like, okay, now what else? So then there were other advocates, some of our relatives who were also giving webinars. So I gave them the login ID and password. I said, you do it from Virtual Lawyer. And we ended up getting about 500 to 700 followers in the first 5-6 days. So then we thought that, now that people are responding to this and, it is something that is good and constructive and academic, so we should continue this. And from there, we started making it more systematic, and slowly we increased, and then it is what it is today.
I'm even on our site, I remember, so Raghav is our president. Yeah. So we were also active on Instagram during that time. Yeah. And the Virtual Lawyer, the name was coming up. Yeah. 200 followers, we see it the next day, you are touching 300. We are like, what is happening? We need to contact this page. So he said, Arvind, this is your job. You have to contact the page and we need a collaboration with them. They are growing so fast. Yeah. They could help us. Yeah. Okay, cool, I'll do that. Yeah. So then I messaged the Virtual Lawyer on Instagram. Yeah. And ma'am, you replied, then I took your number and then on WhatsApp. Yeah. And ma'am, that was the first time that I was talking to anyone for a collaboration kind of a thing. And ma'am, I was so nervous before the call because I remember on call, you had asked me are you an advocate or are you a student? Yeah. And I thought, okay, so what would make the collaboration happen? Should I say an advocate or should I say a student? Yeah. But I thought, okay, I'll say that I'm a student naturally. Yeah. And ma'am, but then you actually told me that this is a good thing that you're doing. Yeah. And then ma'am, I remember after our first moot as well, I called you up and then also you had congratulated us. Yeah. I told that also to our team. Yeah. And now since that day, everyone is the Virtual Lawyer is our goal. We have to be like the Virtual Lawyer.
Oh my God.
So ma'am, that is our end of the story.
So how has your experience been working on something, different from just practicing law? Is there any particular webinar that you might have conducted, any session that you took, which you'd like to encourage our viewers to watch?
So as you all know, you've done your research. I'm someone who likes to cultivate my hobbies and not just, when it comes to law, but also other fields. And I like to sort of consistently do other things as well. So, but yes, doing something like this in the legal field is a first, and it is the first time that I have done it, and I have really enjoyed it, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it, and I want to continue doing this for as long as possible. And so I would say, as far as the sessions are concerned, I would say that every session is important, every webinar is important, and what we try and do is we make, and whenever I speak to the speakers, I always tell them that the session should be such that even a lay person who has no knowledge about law opens IGTV, sees the video, should understand that field of law. So I would say that all webinars were equally good. All of them were exceptional. All of them gave a learning opportunity, a growing opportunity to everyone who saw it, as well as those who spoke, even the speakers, right? Yes, so this concept of webinars is also new to the legal fraternity. It hasn't happened before. So I think everyone grew and everyone benefited from it. It was something that, with which everyone could take something home. So that is, I like all of them. I'm not partial to anyone.
But anyone which you think that is the best?
Oh my God. For me, all are good. Okay. But if I have to pick one, it will be my mother's webinar.
Yeah. Okay, naturally.
Yeah.
So the 1 year anniversary of the lockdown is coming up very soon. So ma'am, how do you see the Virtual Lawyer growing and moving forward once this pandemic period ends and everything returns to the offline mode? Yeah. And ma'am, will we see some offline events, and is there any kind of merchandise coming up as well?
Do you want offline events?
Yes,
do you want merchandise?
Yes,
okay, so we'll have to think about that. We'll see what we can do. But see, the one thing that this pandemic has taught all of us is that now virtual events, virtual talks, webinars, panel discussions, they are here to stay. For this simple reason, if you see the kind of audience we attract in the virtual lawyer, it's not just Delhi based. So there are people from all over the country and different law schools. There are professors, assistant professors, there are students from various law schools, you know, across the country. So they get access to some of the greatest minds through this platform and through the virtual mode. So they don't need to travel or put in all that extra effort, and they can sit at home and, you know, just watch it, which is
accessible.
yes, which is the biggest advantage. So I would not want to stop this. I would not want to shift to a physical mode, because that would deprive a lot of people who cannot physically come, because our physical mode would be, you know, limited to Delhi, because we have our own limitations
Yes,
as
ma'am.
well. So I would want maybe a mix of the two. We can think about that when things become better. But I would definitely want to continue this virtual, and of course it is the virtual lawyer, so it has to be virtual to a large extent. But yeah, we are thinking of some interesting things this year. Let's see, you'll be surprised.
Yes, ma'am. And I'm talking about mixing the online and the offline mode. Ma'am, I think it was Justice D.Y. Chandrachud, ma'am, who said that the online courts have begun, but it is like we still need the offline courts. However, that does not mean that the online courts will stop once the pandemic ends and everything becomes normal. So like even if in our judicial system is having online and offline courts at the same time and they find it accessible, then even us who are providing something to the students of value, which will help them in the field, why should we stop?
Yes, and also the biggest reason which I felt, which motivated me back then, and it still motivates me, is that I want to, you know, sort of travel across boundaries.
Yes,
I don't
ma'am.
want to limit. So like registration to events, I feel limits the crowd. Similarly, physical events will limit the crowd, because people from other states will not be able to have equal access. So for me, it's very important that we keep it accessible to everyone. Easily accessible, instantly accessible, and and good quality.
Yes, ma'am. And ma'am, coming back to the merchandise. So ma'am, what kind of merchandise would you think would be best for the virtual lawyer? Or do you have something in mind?
You guys tell me what you want.
Ma'am, the virtual lawyer themed pillows.
Oh my god.
Like the pillows there.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you want cushions, sweatshirts,
Sure, ma'am.
yeah, caps.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay.
Ma'am, coffee mugs as well or something like that.
Also you guys want. Okay. So what we can do is for the organizing team for the events coming, we'll give complimentary coffee mug.
Yes, ma'am, done. Ma'am, we'll come for even more interviews.
Done.
So now, we found out that you did Pol Science honors. So what was that like? Like in this day and age, there is a lot of there's a radical polarization between the left and the right. Do you think that more and more students should be opting for Pol Science or other subjects like these, so that they gain a better perspective maybe, or an insight into politics, which is different from others?
Well, you know, I am always going to be partial towards Pol Science. It was my favorite subject growing up. I topped the boards in Pol Science. Like I got that certificate from CBSE, you know, that.
Now, this is something we're not able to find out from the LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, this you can't. So it was a certificate that said congratulations, you are from the 0.01% of the country in Pol Science. Yeah. So I love Pol Science, and so I was confused between history and Pol Science when I had to attend college. And then I just sort of, you know, went with my gut, and I was like, this is what I like and this is what I'm going to do. So, see, with me, I come from a family of lawyers, like you all know, right? So, but I always made it a point that I should not just do law because, you know, of the background. So in high school, I never wanted to do law. Like, I was like this rebel, okay? I just did not want to become a lawyer. And I was very sure about humanities. I had pure humanities in 11th and 12th with psychology. So I really liked those subjects. And then I did Pol Science honors and I loved it. And but then, you know, after you finish graduation, then you're like, okay, do you want to go into academics, or do you want to further go into the theoretical aspect of political science, or you want to do something different? So then I decided that I want to do law, because as I see it, law is the application of everything we have studied in political science.
Absolutely, yes, ma'am.
That's how I see it. So for me, in fact, doing law was very easy after pol science because half the things we had studied
I agree. Even in 11th, 12th, like I had pol science, I was from humanities, so it genuinely made a huge impact. When I came to college, most of the theories you're done with, social science you've done with, so that's actually
Yeah, the constitution we had studied in detail. We studied the constitution makers, B.R. Ambedkar, Vivekananda. We studied, then we had papers on Greek political philosophy, and I remember I romanced Plato. Like Plato was his republic and his philosopher, ruler and ideal state. That was my love throughout my second year of pol science, and I wrote a couple of papers on it, and I really enjoyed studying all those thinkers.
Ma'am, so I grew up as a person who hated pol science. Yeah. But I remember, like, my father still tells me when I was, ma'am, I think in the 4th standard or the 5th standard, I used to say, I don't know where I heard his name, but I said कि मैं बड़े होके मुकुल रोहतगी ऐसा बनूंगा.
Oh.
And I was in the 4th standard. And then from 4th to 10th, I forgot all about it.
Yeah.
Then my father told me, Arvind, याद है तू ऐसे बोलता था. I'm like, oh shit, हाँ, I can still do law, this means.
Yeah.
And then, like, slowly, I gradually shifted to law. But, like, yes, ma'am, pol science, it of course helps.
Yeah.
And ma'am, so, like, do you think that other people should also study pol science, ma'am? Because in today's time, ma'am, like, we all see on the news channels and, ma'am, all the political parties and their rallies, ma'am, there is a radical polarization. Like, everyone is either for or against. Ma'am, there is no middle ground.
Yeah.
So, for better understanding, do you feel there should be pol science should be part of the curriculum?
See, I know that they teach you civics, I think 9th onwards, and then you can opt whether you want to study pol science or not in 11th and 12th. Now, more than pol science, what I feel is that as a country, we love our emotions, you know, and it's mostly our emotions that sway us when it comes to politics in this country. And certain issues get us emotional and, you know, things like that. So more than pol science, I think what needs to be taught is how to see, as lawyers, we are taught to, you know, separate emotions from what is the law and what are the facts and what is on record. So I think that kind of training needs to be given to students, school children at a young level. Apart from that, I think our education system now, they're focusing on extracurriculars as well. Right? Earlier, it wasn't so much. So I think that holistic kind of education will help you to sort of be a more aware polity, as they say, be a more aware, group of citizens, and sort of, be able to differentiate whether what you are feeling is simply a reaction to what you are seeing, or what you're saying or doing is after you have thought about what you have just seen. So there needs to be one step added, you know, between reaction and observation.
And that should begin from the school level
It needs to, because it's very difficult for it to be inculcated at a later stage. It's difficult. So somehow the education system needs to be more integrated, and they need to sort of make you aware of the fact that there is not just a one-way street, that there are many things. For example, just becoming a doctor or an engineer is not the end goal. You can also become a musician or a chef or someone who's an athlete. So that option and that environment and those opportunities need to be given to students at a very early age.
Ma'am, so like after pol science honors, ma'am, you did law from Amity University, which is again IPU.
Yes.
So ma'am, did you in Amity University, ma'am, what was it like? Ma'am, did you compete in moods and debates or any society or extracurriculars?
You know what? So all through my school life, I have, I think since the age of 10, I have been competing in debates, in elocutions and in extempores, and I have always won, like first or second prize though I have won every time, okay. And then in pol science honors also I was doing it. So when I did law, I made it a pact that I'm not going to do anything, like no extracurricular, because I was just exhausted from doing so much that I said that while doing law, I'm going to take a break. I'm just going to study and I'm going to chill. So in law, I just did those two things. I did one moot, I think, in my first year, and that was it.
So what was the chilling like? So like, was there a spot in college?
We are on camera. This is not going to be an answer that I'm going to give.
So now moving forward, like, what's your vision for your law career? Like, you are an advocate, so what about that?
See, to be very honest, my law career depends on my clients. but if I had a choice, if it were up to me, then I would want to do more of constitutional matters. I would want to do more of public interest litigation, and I would like to do cases which involve a question of law. Simply because I have that background, right? We've done pol science, humanities, so those kind of issues, environmental law, so those kind of issues are very close to my heart, and they sort of, motivate me. And I feel that is somewhere the reason why I became a lawyer or wanted to become a lawyer. So no matter what cases I do, I would always want to take out some time to, do these kind of cases as well.
I think this social aspect really comes from our pol science books from 11th and 12th. It inculcates it in us that you need to be doing all of these social.
So it's an early age, that's what in school systems this needs to be integrated so that everyone grows up to be this way.
Like, we as pol science students might have that perspective, but other kids like commerce kids or science kids, they lack it. Definitely.
Ma'am, so 2020, as we know, is the pandemic year. And ma'am, one of the major highlights, apart from the pandemic, was the IP University arbitrarily conducting examinations offline. And ma'am, most of us being students of the IPU, ma'am, we had to bear the brunt of it. And we had to wake up early and then go to college. Ma'am, in a building full of 200 odd students, whom we don't even know, like if they have used masks in the past or not, where have they traveled. So ma'am, ma'am, you had filed a PIL against these physical examinations. So ma'am, could you tell us more about this PIL and your experience with the same? Like, how was it handled in court?
So I'll tell you how it started. So I think this was that period when you were having all those moots and quizzes, right? So I had been invited to judge in 2-3 moots and quizzes, and so this is one of those organizers, students who had sort of organized one of the competitions that I had judged. So he messaged me at around 11:30 in the night, okay? And his text was like, "Ma'am, we need some help. Will you be available? It's kind of urgent and it's legal." So, you get a message from a student at 11:30, you sort of get worried. So I called him up. I said, "What happened?" So he sort of explained this whole situation to me, and he said that, we're very upset, and, we don't want to go physically, and our families, we have aged parents, and we are feeling very uncomfortable with this, and we want to sort of file some case, okay? So I said, okay. So I asked him to send me all the documents and all the notifications and everything. And then, one after another, I think students just kept calling. It was just a ripple effect. By morning, it was like fire. And my phone was ringing non-stop. And I was like, okay, guys, now you guys need to relax. You've given me all the material. Now let me study it and let me draft something and let me file it. So then we did so, and Mr. Sudhanshu Batra, who's a senior advocate, he very graciously agreed to appear for this matter pro bono. Wow. So this was completely pro bono litigation for all of us. And, I told him that this is the situation, and he sort of was like, I will be there and we'll argue it. Let's do this. And then we filed a PIL, and then, so on and so forth.
I'm like, ma'am, but the final decision, were you happy with that?
You see, in terms of the timing of the whole petition, we also got a little late in filing it. So the exams had already taken place. So it was not practical or possible for them to stop exams midway, right? But what they did was they gave the students the option that if they don't appear, nothing adverse will happen against them, and they will get a chance to reappear online and give the exams. So that way the court was very good in helping and understanding the plight of the students and providing them adequate protection for if they were scared and they were not wanting to give a physical exam. So yeah, the final order was satisfactory, and now you guys have online exams.
Yes,
so
ma'am.
now there's no question of anything.
Ma'am, but like from the starting point itself, ma'am, the root I would not say the root cause, ma'am, but the initial beginning of even thinking about offline examinations during that time.
It was completely arbitrary.
Completely illogical.
It was wrong, it was arbitrary, and it was completely without jurisdiction, especially after the Bar Council notification. So therefore, of course, the students suffered, but what we could do was that we could, manage the suffering as best as possible at that time.
Because I remember after coming home after the first exam, and the next day we get the news that the cases have peaked to 8,000 in Delhi. And then we think, okay, we just went to college 2 days ago and now the cases have peaked. There is definitely a connection. And so do we have the disease? What should we do?
I remember I got a call even after the first hearing. I kept getting calls from a lot of students, and they said they've tested positive, and they were sure they've tested positive after giving the exam. So, I told them, I'm like, then you please file, an IA or something, and you put yourself on record and you come and you say something. But by the time they did, we got the final order, and, the case was then disposed of. So I think that was that. I'm really curious about this. How did you guys come up with this idea of this interview at home and in Spotlight and, with all this camera and gadgets that I see around here?
Ma'am, basically what happened was, we had this idea, I think, first in the month of July or August. But we thought that, okay, we think that this is too soon, but let us keep it in the inventory and we can think about this later.
Yeah.
So, later on, then we started having our webinars and our competitions.
Yeah.
But then we thought that as the year was ending, that we wanted to do something new.
Okay.
So then we came back to it. We thought, what if we do this?
Yeah.
And what if we have a podcast, have a podcast / a talk show,
Yes.
where we can talk to the advocates and not only talk to them, but ask them questions which will help the listeners as well. Because the webinars were doing the same thing, but we wanted something a little more casual, a little more candid.
Yes.
And then, ma'am, like we said, ma'am, you were the first person because, we had been in contact with you, and ma'am, the virtual lawyer has always been a motivation.
Yes.
So, ma'am, that was basically the idea. And ma'am, apart from that, ma'am, since our organization Lex Macula began, ma'am, we all have also learned a lot of skills. Ma'am, like Bhavya, ma'am, he learned most of the things about photography and everything. So we had someone to take care of the cameras.
Yeah.
Ma'am, and ma'am, I was also there, and ma'am, I learned how to talk to the hotshot big lawyers, ma'am, like you and maybe
Not me, but anyway.
lawyers, and ma'am, people whom I talk to, people with whom people would feel nervous. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
So we thought maybe we can use that as well.
Yes, and that I think is very important because, and this is one thing which I find very interesting, which has happened over this past year, and because I have seen before the pandemic and now, right? So in the legal fraternity, especially when it comes to young people and senior advocates and, the legal eagles, so there seemed to be a sort of a space between the two, and that gap was not very easily bridged.
Yes, ma'am.
But thanks to the pandemic, I mean, I don't know if I should use the word thanks, but we should be grateful for what it has given us, and that gap has reduced. So it has brought everyone together in a way that is unprecedented, has never happened before, and I think people like you, people like, all of us around have contributed to it. And not just us, the fact that these seniors and, these legal eagles rose to the occasion.
Yes, ma'am.
And they were so, supportive, and they were just like a phone call away. And you call them and they're like, yes, we will do this, So without, I think, their support and their encouragement, it would have been very difficult for any of us to, be and do what we are doing. So, yeah.
You understand this the most since you yourself organize all of these webinars through the virtual lawyer. So I think definitely it is a task.
It is like the whole community, the whole legal fraternity came together that, okay, since people are doing these new ventures, we should also participate.
Yes, and I think the legal fraternity, the way it has risen to this pandemic, I mean, it's phenomenal. It is unprecedented, unexpected, and it is just beautiful the way it has happened.
Ma'am, so, ma'am, while the pandemic had its fair share of drawbacks, ma'am, people have taken up new hobbies and new interests. And ma'am, we checked out your Instagram ID as well.
God.
And ma'am, there we noticed occasional poet. So ma'am, what is the story behind the occasional poet?
So, I have been writing poetry since, I think, first year Hindu. First year college, yeah. So and people ask me how and when. I have no idea. It just comes to me. Sometimes I go a year without writing anything, and then suddenly I'll write like 5 poems, and I don't know how. Okay, it just happens. So that's why occasional. It's not a regular poet. It doesn't regularly happen. It's just, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like.
Ma'am, we have somebody who relates to you because Arman himself also is.
I also
You will
became
have to read some poetry. Then.
I'm done.
Yeah.
But first you.
Acha, okay. But then you have to read something.
Yes, ma'am. I'll read my first poem,
Okay.
which was also written during this pandemic. So I'm also an occasional poet.
Nice. I think as lawyers we can only be occasional poets.
Yes,
We cannot be full-time poets. This one is called The Ultimate Shore, and I wrote it on 4th of May 2020. That's what my phone says. I note down the poems in the notes section of my phone, so that's where all of them are. So here it goes, okay? It says, once bitten, twice shy, but world is left to try. For life is but a glorious journey. Every end is a new beginning. Triumph and failure are all part of the story. What is wise in practice might be forbidden in theory. Hop, 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 from one to another stop. Hop till you drop, or your butterfly wings might drop. For those meant to soar heights are never pleased with simple delights. What commoners love, the uncommon despise. What the commoners despise is the uncommon will to survive. And not just in plain sight, but by soaring heights. Not just a little distance, but farther than our sights. Hop, 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 I will, going with the flow. Stop, 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 I will, once the journey has reached its ultimate shore.
Wow. Can we applause?
Yeah. Oh God. Lot of Paul signs. Lot of Paul signs.
समुंदर की आस लगाए बैठा हूँ, समुंदर से ही दूर जा रहा हूँ मैं। खुद को ही तलाश रहा हूँ आज तो, हवा के साथ ही बह रहा हूँ। जहाँ गिराए गिर रहा हूँ, जहाँ उड़ाए उड़ रहा हूँ। जब कोई पूछे कहाँ जा रहे हो, सिर्फ यही कह देता हूँ, समुंदर की आस लगाए बैठा हूँ, समुंदर से ही दूर जा रहा हूँ। मैं खुद में ही मौत हूँ, खुद में ही जीवन का मैं ज्ञान हूँ। खुद में ही मैं राक्षस, खुद में ही मैं स्वर्ग का भगवान हूँ। मैं खुद में ही परोपकारी, मैं खुद में ही शक्तिमान हूँ। मैं खुद में ही एक मसीहा, मैं खुद में ही असुरों का बलिदान हूँ। अकेला आया हूँ और अकेले ही चलने का विचार है। मिल जाऊँ रास्ते में कहीं तो छोड़ देना हाल पे, क्योंकि मन में काफ़ी सवाल है। जब भी कोई पूछता है कहाँ जा रहे हो, उन्हें भी मैं सिर्फ यही कह देता हूँ, समुंदर की आस लगाए बैठा हूँ, समुंदर से ही दूर जा रहा हूँ। मैं मन का शोर सुनता हूँ नहीं, मैं खुद में ही महान हूँ। जिंदगी की आस में खोजता लहरों में भगवान हूँ। पर असलियत में क्या कहूँ, मैं लक्ष्यहीन ही हूँ, नहीं मैं ज्ञान हूँ। मैं समुंदर की आस तो लगाए बैठा हूँ, पर समुंदर से ही दूर जा रहा हूँ। मैं खुद को ही तलाश रहा हूँ आज तो, हवा के साथ ही बह रहा हूँ। समुंदर की आस लगाए बैठा हूँ, समुंदर से ही दूर जा रहा हूँ।
Brilliant. Send this to me.
Yes, ma'am, sure. Thank you, ma'am.
Very good.
Ma'am, so apart from that brilliant poetry, what else did you gain from this lockdown period?
You know, from this lockdown period, I feel I have gained a lot. In everyone's life, there is a turning point, and there is a point where, you have to stop, think, and contemplate about things rather than just, going with the flow of life,
Yes,
or, going with your 9-to-5 job. And I felt the pandemic was this for all of us. And I think the most important thing that I've learned in this pandemic is adaptability. I mean, of course, we all have it at some level, but the way we've had to adapt in this year, I think that is the biggest lesson, that no matter what life throws at you, the one way in which you can survive it is by adapting. So this is something we'll tell our kids, that our parents had World War II, we had 2020. So I think in the beginning, as many of us, I wanted to plant have planters in my house. So I quickly started, all physical shopping had stopped, right? So I quickly started searching for planters online and flowers online. And then after a few mishaps and a few dead plants, I managed to find the right plants and the right planters for my house. And and I learned to garden looking at YouTube.
I think people who garden and or like you said that you started planting planters and everything. I think people grow an emotional connection with the plant that they start to grow, and I've seen my dad do it. I've seen my grandmother fall in love with her plants and actually get sad if one dies. So I can literally.
Very sad when my plant died. I think 2 weeks ago, one other new plant I'd got also didn't survive, and I was so upset. And then I buried that little plant in another planter. It was just this small, so I put it in the mitti, and I was like, "You stay here only. You're not going anywhere." So now we have a couple of plants from one stem, like one leaf of aloe vera. Now I have 2 big pots of aloe vera, and we have some ajwain, we have some dhania. We have dhania, and we have bougainvillea plant. I've put. It's just starting. There are like 10 leaves on it, but I'm hoping it will grow. And then there is some onion, spring onion. Yeah. So we have 2 of those.
So it's extremely healthy and important to comfortably be able to talk about mental health. And yet in our society, there's a very prevalent stigma around it, and people are not very comfortable talking about it. And they don't even take it seriously. So how do you think the stigma can be eliminated? Like we saw you had conducted one of these webinars on this only, mental health and law. So we just want you to tell us a little bit more about this stigma, and what would your suggestion to the youth be with regard to the same?
Yeah, so I think we've done about 4-5 sessions on mental health now. Yeah. So that is something which is very close to my heart again. So like I said, I'm a humanities student, so I had psychology also in 11th and 12th. And I studied about mental health very early on in life, and I have consciously been looking after mental health and my own mental health, and sort of I feel that everyone should emphasize more on mental health, because we'll go to the gym and we'll build up our bodies and things like that, but a lot of the times what we ignore is our mental health. And especially in a pandemic, when you are completely stripped off your regular daily routines, and you're unable to meet anyone, and you are there is a huge amount of uncertainty, and there are all kinds of rumors and panic in the news and around you. So that in such a volatile context, mental health is the most vulnerable aspect of a human being's life at that time. So therefore I thought that once we have so many people tuned into sessions, and they are following Virtual Lawyer, so I just felt that it's important that we should also conduct from time to time we should keep conducting sessions on mental health, so that everyone realizes A, that they're not alone, B, that it is something that is fixable, and C, if you are feeling something, you should not ignore it. And I feel I've seen over the lockdown like how the legal fraternity has risen, so have people when it comes to mental health. I feel everyone, be it a celebrity, be it a common person, be it a psychologist, be it a non-psychologist, I mean everyone is focusing on mental health. Everyone at their level is doing sessions on mental health in all possible spheres. So I feel that way we have this generation to thank, because we are highlighting the issue of mental health like never before. And I feel the tide is so strong that now, going into the future, it's not going to be so easy for people to brush, the mental health aspects.
I think it's our responsibility now that it keeps on coming in discussions. We don't just let it go, and just actually bring about a change. Since we just keep on saying that the society needs to change, but in the end of the day, even if we start we make the society. Yes. So I think that's what's going to bring in the change. That session was really nice. So I think you didn't have one favorite, but I think my favorite would be that one.
Ma'am, so when we entered, ma'am, we noticed one more thing.
This is my mistake.
So ma'am, so we found these pillows hanging around. Ma'am, so you are a modernite.
and a dramebaz. It's a modernized dramebaz.
Show it to the
Camera as well. Guys, there are two more.
And those are like really bright and red.
bright and red.
Ma'am, so what is the story behind this?
So, Masosa, like I said, I'm very consistent with what I do outside the legal fraternity. You guys are going to, you're going to be the models. You're going to be the models of Masosa. Yes. So this is a Modern School Old Students Association. You want me to hold this? Okay. So, this is Modern School Old Students Association, and we do a play. We do an annual play every year. And since we're all working, we take out time in the evenings after work. So, rehearsals can run into late nights and things like that. And we rehearse for about 1.5 months. And then we finally put on 3 shows for our alumni and our students. So after every show, all the actors and the participants, they get a hamper from Masosa. And each year you get 1 cushion. So this cushion is my mehnat ki kamai, and I have 4 of those, which means I have done 4 plays for Masosa. So these are like my trophies.
This is definitely very, very interesting.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's why I keep them in the living room. Although my mother hates it, she's like, "What are these doing in the living room?" I'm like, "No, I have worked hard for
Pride
these.
possession.
Yes, these will be in the living room."
Ma'am, so ma'am, this is our new segment, and ma'am, one of our most favorite ones, so that the listeners have something even more to look up to when they.
A very nice takeaway from every session.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, throughout this lockdown, ma'am, there was no other source of getting knowledge other than books, other than podcasts and YouTube videos. So, ma'am, I became a fan of Kobe. Ma'am, we lost him in February 2020, ma'am, but I became a fan of Kobe throughout this lockdown. And ma'am, his mindset and ma'am, his playing set, ma'am, his skill set and everything. I learned all about that, ma'am, through the YouTube videos and his own interviews. So, ma'am, have you come across a book, a YouTube video online, or a podcast that has made you feel extremely inspired and motivated? And ma'am, how can the youth keep their spirits high and find the right source of motivation in your opinion? So, ma'am, these are 2 separate questions. You can answer the first one, and then we'll come back to the second.
Yeah. You see, as far as inspirational, stuff is concerned, I think all of that was happening on our platforms only. I think thankfully, through the process of, organizing all these webinars, we were also listening to the webinars in such detail. And so I felt that those were very informative for me, especially in areas of law, which I never even thought that I will ever be interested in, and through all of these sessions I became interested in those webinars and in those areas of law. So that is there, but honestly, this is something you will also, I think, see in the future, that when you are in a profession so heavy as law, right? So you read a lot of books and you have to read a lot of theory all the time. So it's important to also do fun things or read fun things. So for me, I think it would be watching stand-up comedy, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And also reading like really funny books. So there are 2 comedians who are my favorite. One is Joe Lasset. He's a UK-based comedian, and the second is Trevor Noah, who you all
Yes,
know
ma'am.
as the Daily
Daily
Show
Show.
host, right? So I started following Trevor Noah way before he became the host of Daily Show. He was a very small-time stand-up comedian at that time. The reason why I liked his jokes was because his brand of humor is again political humor. So he will talk about things like decolonization. He will talk about things like the British and invading into South Africa, and he will make like such humorous statements that you learn, but it's still funny,
Yes.
right? So it's and with Joe Lasset, his way of his brand of humor is he sends these really funny emails to like different people, sometimes corporate officers, sometimes the government, and he talks about the replies he gets, and it's hilarious. So 2 books that I reread in this lockdown, I've already read them, but I reread. One was Trevor Noah's book. It's called Born a Crime. So
yes, ma'am.
he's written it himself, and in that book basically he talks about his childhood, and so he was born at a time when apartheid was the law in South Africa. So basically, a black man could not be with a white woman, and a white man could not be with a black woman. And his father was white, and his mother was black. So he was born a crime. he was not supposed to exist as per the law at that time. So he has talked about this entire journey, but he has put in humor in it. So it is learning, yet it's funny. You know, so he in fact gave incidents like he was walking with his mother on the street, but he was not black, right? He was brownish, he was almond. So she would see a cop walking and she would just throw him away. And she would walk in the other corner that he's not mine. So he would just be in the middle of the street and he's like, okay, what just happened, you know? Like, why she just left me? So things like that. And then there was, so Joe Lasset has written a book. It's called Buttered Parsnips, Winning at Modern Life, One Email at a Time. Okay, so in the entire book, he has like 5 aliases and he writes emails using each and every, you know, alias. And the replies and the responses, I mean, they are just so funny, yet very smart. So a person who's a non-lawyer is taking the authorities for a ride. And the way he does it, I mean, it's so brilliant, we could not do it. It's like that.
So I think we just want to thank you for this session, for all your time. I mean, I'm definitely sure that you had a lot on your plate right now, and we have literally made your living room into our studio. And lots of equipment here, lots of light. But this was an amazing session. You know, the first ones that I've hosted, both of us have hosted actually. And so this was one of the best ones, and I'm really, really glad I got this opportunity.
And ma'am, we got the opportunity to meet Dunstan.
Yes,
And ma'am, see your house.
Yes.
And ma'am, these paintings.
Yes.
They
I
are.
need special shots of these paintings.
Yes, we do.
And the artist?
And the artist as well.
With the
Yes, ma'am,
artist,
sure.
with the artist.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
with these cushions.
And these cushions. You can't take those home though.
Oh,
Those are just for props.
thank you,
So
ma'am.
much for having us over and letting
course.
us do this.
No.
Here's to more sessions in the future.
Yes. Wishing you guys all the success, all the love, and hope you guys do much, much, much bigger things and keep going forward from here and on.
Thank you, ma'am.
We are looking forward to more of a published poetry.
And
Put
merchandise.
them up. Yes, put them up.
Okay. So we'll do virtual law in the front and poetry at the back
Ma'am,
on
done.
a sweatshirt.
Oh, yes,
Oh my
ma'am.
god, perfect.
ठीक है? Done.
And coffee must have been or something.
Also, you guys.